chicken restaurant to multiple locations where that man knew that MARKEITH LOYD was known to hang out. So they were actively looking in the multiple neighborhoods that this was a state and federal takedown that happened on the west side. And Meredith, you talked about this MARKEITH LOYD growing up in this neighborhood where he was caught, having a lot of contacts in this area. Law enforcement believing that people definitely harbored him, and that there will be more arrests made in the wake of this takedown tonight for obstruction of justice, and then U.S. Marshals naming him a top 15 most wanted man.
And that's just what I was going to talk about, Jim. You know, the fact that, he's been on the FBI most wanted list since last week. Today, the additional $25,000 reward with information leading to his arrest with the U.S. Marshals list. But just the fact, too, interesting that picture was released today, the potential tip that he had received that his appearance may have changed, that he has shaved his head. We knew all along that he was a rather strong man in that zone of 6 feet to about 6'3", anywhere between 180, 200 pounds, and that he had a scar that was raised on his left hand. So the description had been out there, but again, that theory that there were, that just that network of his friends were helping to keep him out of the sight of law enforcement for the past week or so, and really since December after the murder of Sade Dixon, the officers say that he did commit. But again, just interesting that new release, the potential that he could have shaved his head, and as soon as we see photos of him once he is booked inside, what's happening in OPD right now, we'll have a new mugshot per se of him to see what he looks like now at this point. But several images that we were seeing since last week's murder of the officer of Deborah Clayton, just showing him in different security t-shirts with different hairstyles and a beard and not a beard. So it'll be interesting to see what he looks like now and how he was able to avoid police for at least this week.
All right, so on the right, that's from Lescott and Raleigh Streets. That is the scene where MARKEITH LOYD was taken into custody. I want to pick up on what you were talking about, Meredith. I mean, here's a guy who's been on the run for more than a month now, and that's pretty hard to do if you, especially if you're acting alone. And police clearly don't believe that he was, and they describe him as a domineering male, a man that people feared. And that was how he got his way. In fact, some of the affidavits that we've read from the statements that people who've already been taken into custody, talking about, I was afraid of this guy, and I did what he told me because, I knew that he was wearing body armor, and I knew that he was carrying a gun. And when he was arrested, he was wearing body armor. We don't know if he had a weapon on him, but he had that body armor that they talked about since last Monday, and the confrontation with the Orlando police officer who ended up losing her life.
Yeah, Lieutenant Clayton, just to follow up on that, they realized because they had found some of his articles of clothing not too far from that Walmart that was along JYP in East Princeton, and realized that he had been wearing, he had body armor on, he was wearing the vest, and that it had been pierced, and they were able to tell that from the clothes that were left behind not too far from that scene. So Lieutenant Clayton was able to fire off a shot, but just from that encounter, from what we understand, it happened within seconds. The lieutenant had already called for backup, said she was going to approach MARKEITH LOYD, knowing that he was a wanted man for the murder of his ex-girlfriend, who was pregnant at the time. So she approached him, and Chief Mina said that's exactly what any one of us would do. That's what we're trained to do. And apparently, it seems as though he opened fire almost immediately. She was able to return fire, but again, he was wearing the protective vest.
And these are two people whose paths have crossed in the past. One of the pastors who helps to organize the anti-violence marches in the Paramore Pine Hills neighborhoods, saying that he has seen them both at the same anti-violence events. So and we had some information that there may have been a loose connection between families. So this was. These were people who clearly knew each other, and she clearly knew who he was when she confronted him, and were thinking likewise as well.
And Jim, just from learning so much about her over the weekend, Lieutenant Clayton, they said that she policed these streets for 17 years, and part of her tactics was getting to know those in the community, getting to know the family members. She was part of their gang unit for quite some time, spoke to local kids and school kids about the importance of staying away from, gangs and drugs and that sort of thing. But she had her pulse on the whole community. community, and that was just the kind of officer that she was. And it was interesting to hear Chief Mina say that he encouraged more officers to reach out to others that way, to talk to families, to talk to kids. So you're exactly right. There could have been some sort of relationship that